Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Switch Statement Podcast. It's a podcast for investigations into miscellaneous tech topics.
This is episode 4 in our series on the design of everyday things by Don Norman.
Hey, John.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
How's it going?
Going good. I'm going good. How are you?
Yeah, you always have that. You always got to figure out. Did they ask me how's it going or how am I doing?
I need to check back at the previous episodes and see what you usually ask. I feel like you were throwing me a curveball.
I paused. Yeah, I did, mix it up a little bit. But
It's really easy to trip me up. So what are we talking about today? This is chapter 3?
Actually, yeah. So this is the first part of chapter 3. As mentioned last time, it's called Knowledge in the Head and in the World. I feel like this guy is slowly, I don't know, we're witnessing his descent into complete incoherence or
Yes.
something. I really hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. But actually, your point was very relevant to the intro of this book. Where he talks about how he had that example where the UK released their new pound note or pound coin.
Yeah.
And it was so similar to the existing pound or the existing 5-pence coin that like everybody was mistaking them.
Yeah, he talks a lot about how humans are basically just glorified pattern matchers. That's one of our primary abilities. And so if a coin comes out that's really, really similar to another coin, maybe same color, similar size, then people are just going to completely confuse it with that other coin. There's the French example that he gave that I wasn't familiar with, but then there's the United States example with the Susan B. Anthony coin.
Yes.
That looks very similar to a quarter. And yeah, I'll have to admit, when I saw that Susan B. Anthony coin, I was like, what is this? Is this like the new quarter? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. And then do they still have the Sacagawea dollar, right? That it's the golden one,
the golden
right?
dollar. Yeah, which I'm a fan of. Yeah.
It's nice. It's got a weight in. It's still about the same size as a quarter though, right?
Right. But it's got that beautiful golden color.
It's golden. Yes. Like a galleon from Harry Potter.
Yes. This anecdote about coins made me think about that big Eisenhower dollar coin. Have you ever seen one of those?
Yes, I loved those.
I love those too. And it made me wonder, and this is a thing I've often wondered, which is like, what happened to that coin? Like, did people just not like it? Was it too big, too impractical?
Enormous. It was enormous. Like,
So?
you
It's
couldn't
awesome.
I guess the thing is, like, how many of those really are you carrying around at one time?
100.
It's like, you just need 100. Yeah. Just like Mr. Moneybags.
Dude, people
with
could
the big
like
dollar sign.
shoot you and you just survive because you have like Eisenhower protecting you all over the place.
No way. They shoot you and they it's the bandit with the big goofy black mask and the like black and white suit or like, the stripes, and then he runs away with it.
That coin, I don't know, I don't want to go on a massive tangent about the Eisenhower coin, but I feel like it was the rare example where maybe not rare example, but in our currency we're have a scientific, we're sort of like celebrating science. Because I think the reverse side of the coin was the Apollo 11 logo.
Oh, that's cool. Wait, in the Eisenhower dollar?
Yeah, I hope I'm not making this up. I feel like someone told me this at one point. I hope I'm not just like repeating some rumor. But anyway, I just thought that was like a very cool detail about the coin because, generally our coins have politicians or I don't know. They just celebrate things that I'm not as interested in. And I like currency to celebrate scientists.
Before we continue on, just a note about how we're going to break this chapter down. This one's kind of a hard one pinned down. We're not going to have these aren't as well defined as maybe the last one was. But I think roughly we're going to talk about memory. He goes into a lot about memory in this chapter. And then the next one's kind of going to be a grab bag of a few different things. He talks about mappings. And then I also kind of want to get into the trade-off between, the chapter is called Knowledge in the Head and Knowledge in the World.
Yeah.
We'll get into what those mean. But like, there's kind of a tension there when you're designing something. Do you want to bias more towards knowledge in the head, or do you want to bias more towards knowledge in the world? I want to talk about why you might want to do one or the other. So we'll talk about that in the next episode.
Love that. So what does it mean? What do those both mean?
Yeah, let's at least call that out early on. So knowledge in the head, it was a slightly different, like it didn't mean what I thought it was going to mean.
No.
But knowledge in the head is like you as the user of whatever you're using, the oven, the programming language, what have you, you have spent the time to read the manual. You understand about how it works. You know what's possible, even if there are no signifiers in the system. And then you can just kind of like do it. And an example is, let's say you're learning how to type. A keyboard is kind of a perfect example where you can kind of transition from knowledge in the world mode to knowledge in the head mode, where at first you're hunting, you're pecking, you're just looking, all your keys have the letters on them, and you have to look down every time you want to type a letter. That's knowledge in the world.
Right.
The point being that like the world, in this case, the keyboard has which letter each key corresponds to.
Yeah.
So you can just look and figure out you don't need to read the manual, like
and
reference something.
Yeah. And it's clearly buttons that you can press, and it like looks like what it does, or it does what it looks like it would do, where, you press each button and it like inputs the letter,
Right. And then if you've been typing for a really long time, you took a typing course, what have you, that knowledge is it's just in your brain. You don't need to reference the world in that case. It's just in the head. You can use it without having to like look at the keyboard. That's one pretty clear example how you could, even when you're using a particular object, even if the knowledge is still in the world, you could kind of move to a mode where you're basically using the knowledge has moved from the world to your head through like extensive usage. So that's how I would describe it.
Yeah. No, that was perfect. And he also breaks down, well, this was my understanding. He breaks down knowledge in the head into these two groups, knowledge of and knowledge how.
Yes.
Where knowledge of, which I guess is also known as declarative knowledge, is those things that you were talking about, kind of knowledge of facts, like rules. I think he gave an example of red lights. Like red lights is just kind of this arbitrary thing that we just decided on as a society, but it means that you need to stop. And then knowledge how is also known as procedural knowledge. And it's basically the knowledge of how to do something. Like if you're a piano player, and you slowly gain the knowledge how to perform a Chopin piece over time. And it's generally extremely hard to explain what's actually going on as you're doing something like that. But it's all these little tiny, pieces of information that you've picked up over time and over years of practice, all sort of coming together in this performance.
One thing that's really interesting to me in this realm is speech pathology. Like if you have a speech teacher, a perfect example of something that who can describe what your tongue is supposed to do when you're making an R sound, for example? An R is like a very weird thing. If you have sounds where your tongue is specifically touching different parts of your mouth, like those are a little bit easier sounds to make. It's like there's a very specific place where your tongue is supposed to go. Mm-hmm. With like an R, your tongue is like it's not like it landing anywhere particular when you make that sound. So it's actually one of the more difficult sounds to make. But so as a speech pathologist, you have to basically trick students by having them do all of these other things. Like one example, my sister, she couldn't say SH sounds very well. And they had her suck applesauce through a straw to like as an exercise to get her to. And it's like, I'm not sure if this was like strengthening a muscle or if it was like they just learned that if you did that action, then you would learn how to say SH sounds. I don't know. But
It sounds like the teacher just wants their students to do weird
like,
activities.
all right, do something. Go suck this applesauce through a straw for an hour.
Later, they just laugh about it and talk with their friends.
But yeah, so that's an interesting example of a challenge, I think, to take something that is so intrinsic.
Yeah.
And how do you convey that to another person? But
Right. No, I mean, and it really is a testament to like teaching being its own amazing skill that you can be, deeply knowledgeable about.
Right.
I think there's this general kind of dismissal of teachers. I shouldn't say that. There's probably not a general dismissal of teachers, but there's such a big difference between like being able to do something and being able to teach something.
But I mean, I think the dismissal is not of the general public. It's kind of capitalism's, if we're taking
Right.
How much someone earns as commentary on how much the system values it. Like they're completely in my opinion, out of sorts.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a much better way of explaining it. It's like society just doesn't value teachers, and it should.
Indeed. Now, let me ask you this. Were you able to figure out which penny was the real penny?
Oh, I didn't look up which one was the real one. Does he say which one is the real one?
I don't think so, actually.
Okay,
I looked at it. Yeah, I did look it up.
I didn't look it up, but I thought it was.
Yeah, which one would you say it was?
Oh, shoot, I should have written down which one I thought it was. It was like in the middle. Because I was really curious if I would get this wrong or right.
Well, just while John is looking this up, he shows you a grid of 15 pennies, and every single one is very slightly different than all of the next ones. He's facing the other way on one. It says "E pluribus unum" at the top, or it says so. And your challenge is to say, which permutation of these pennies is the true one? And it's very difficult just by looking at it.
Super tricky. So I thought it was the center one, like the one in the dead
one.
center. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, let me see if I can get this. Hold on.
I was also wondering, so one of the pennies has this like 1 cent on the very bottom, like written in this silly looking font. And I think I have seen a penny that has that on it. So is that like
got me? That got me because this is a very visual conversation, so I'm sure this is not coming across. But the penny that I thought it was is the one that said 1 cent on the bottom, because I was like, they've got to say what
like the
denomination it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that's probably, but it was literally the only penny in the list that said 1 cent on the bottom.
Right.
So neither of us were right. It's the top left. It's just the very first one. Yeah.
Which direction is Lincoln facing? He's facing to the right, right?
He's facing to the right.
Okay, good. I wanted
So
to at least...
you were very close. You were very close. Literally, the only difference is that it doesn't say "E pluribus unum." It says "liberty."
Why liberty? Weird. Okay, liberty threw me off. I did not think we had liberty on our coins.
But anyway, I have a trick. Here. This is a little standardized testing trick. So in this case, you're provided 15 different options, and of course, you're just going to skim, you're going to scan, you're going to pick one that feels right? Mm-hmm. But there's a trick that works almost every time, which is you look at all the different variables. So there's like, okay, which way is he facing? Like that's one of the variables. There's what does the top text say, right? And so for every different thing that's varying, you look at all the different variables, you count how many of each there are of each like permutation of that, or like each variable, right? So it's like in 11 he's facing right, in 4 he's facing left.
Right.
And then all you do is you just take the most common of every single one of those things, and that's always the answer. That is always the answer.
Yeah, because that's how they trip you up, right? They keep
they want to give you ones that are tricky.
Yeah.
So they want to give you ones that are mostly right and a little wrong. So, but what winds up happening is it always gives you the hint about what the right things are, because they're the ones that are shared in common by the most options.
Right.
And then the one that has all of the most ones is always the right option. So like if you have, there's sometimes where you have multiple choice options, you can do this trick where, this is in all 3 of them or what have you, or this thing is only in one of them. It's almost certainly not in not that one. And I got tripped up. I thought they were tricky. I thought they were trying to trick me with the 1 cent. But actually, it says 1 cent on the other side. On the reverse side of the penny, it says 1 cent on the bottom. Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay.
So
I did not realize that. That's crazy. Yeah, because my dad showed me this penny one time that was like metal. Or, well, obviously the penny's metal, but it was like it was like steel or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was some non-copper color. And I feel like he referred to it as like a World War II penny.
Yes.
Because I guess they needed copper for bullets or something. And I thought that was the penny that said 1 cent, and like copper ones didn't say 1 cent. But anyway, this goes to another point, which is false retrieval that he talks about, which is another topic that I've always found extremely fascinating, in part because I had a really interesting childhood experience with false retrieval, where I did this really cool program where I was teamed up with a mentor, and my mentor was a lawyer. And at the end of the program, I had to give a talk. And I think I was like 13 years old or something. And my lawyer recommended I do this thing where in the midst of my talk, my brother would come up behind me and steal my mom's purse and like run away. And my mom would go, "Oh no, my purse," or something. So basically this little crime took place during my talk. And then I handed out these surveys to the audience so that they could describe my brother. And at the very end of the series of talks, I sort of gave the feedback of the surveys. And it was fascinating because people, they just had the most incorrect like recall of my brother, like what he looked like, what race he was. I feel like there's a bit of racism that kind of crept out in the results. My brother is very white, and the results were differing. But yeah, it was just this, it was during my formative years, and it was this extremely telling event where it's like, oh, wow, eyewitness testimony, no value whatsoever.
Worthless.
Should not be trusted.
Yeah. No, I believe it. And to this day, I really I'm always doubtful about my own memories.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, I know that memory is fallible, and it's other people I've been talking with bristle at this idea, because I basically say, I don't think you can trust your own memory. Like people are like, no, I know what happened. And I was like, I don't think you can say that with as much confidence as you're saying that, because I know we've done studies, and yes, you feel certain about it.
Right.
But what actually happened was your brain came up with something, and you're just remembering what random thing your brain came up with when you were asked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I do this thing where I'll be telling a story, and I start to just feel this like incredible lack of like confidence with the details of the story. And it's such a ridiculous thing, because I'll just be telling a story about like a vacation I took or something, but I'll suddenly start to feel like, wait, was that actually what happened?
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, it's like this absurd, feeling that I get sometimes. But yeah, it's just the unreliability of of memory retrieval is pretty fascinating.
One point he said that was very interesting to me is about how we're relying more on computers for our memory these days.
Yeah.
And he had a point that I really identified with, where he was saying people have been like, oh, like if you don't have your GPS, you're not going to be able to get anywhere. And it's like, that's a real problem. And I've kind of been like, is it though? I think I'm going to put my money on we're going to continue to have GPS available, from this point forward.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, yeah, is it possible that I could get into a situation where even though the global GPS isn't down, I don't have access to that, and wayfinding is important? Maybe. But but people are like, no, like it's a really important skill for you to like hone and what have you. And it's like, I don't think so. But this is basically the point that he makes, where he's like, there's a little bit of catastrophizing about the fact that we're relying on all these machines.
Yeah.
And he's like, we've been relying on technology this whole time. Fire, like we build these houses. We couldn't survive without the house. It's an important technology. And it's like, well, electricity and internet connections and things like that. Well, yeah, they're newer, so it doesn't feel like an absolute necessity. But
right.
As society progresses, I mean, electricity at this point, it's like, of course, electricity is an absolute necessity. But that doesn't mean you couldn't be without electricity for some period of time.
Yeah.
But like, you're not going to live your life assuming that you're going to lose access to electricity for any significant period of time.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's such an innate condition of the human stain. It's like we are tool users. It's part of how we've adapted. We don't have any natural, we don't have claws and like big fangs. Like, we're tool users. We're completely dependent on tools. That's it's just part of our identity. So I have always found it hilarious when, people are like, we're too reliant on this stuff. It's like, dude, we're human beings.
It's like,
it's weird.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
Yeah, not about memory. I think this kind of wraps up the memory side of things.
Yeah, obviously, ton more about memory, but I think we can. The one thing that it was very interesting to me. Did you know that Open Sesame came from Alibaba and the 40 Thieves?
Yes, I had heard that before. Yeah, but that was a cool little anecdote.
Yeah,
I don't remember the part where he goes back to the door and he's like, "Open barley," and he just starts naming random grain. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. A little gruesome. Yes, because what happens is the guy gets stuck. So basically, Alibaba tells his brother about the secret code, which is Open Sesame, into this or Open Simsim, I guess, into this den of thieves. Yeah, of their like vault, and then he gets all the treasure, but he forgets how to get out. He's stuck there, and then the thieves come back, chop his head off,
and then quarter him.
Yes, and quarter him.
It's like, what a gruesome. I mean, once you chop his head off, why do you need to quarter him? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, that's just pouring salt into the wound. But
yeah, it's like some weird like mafia body disposal or something. I don't know. It's just weird.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that's all there is to say about memory. Then, now that we've talked about the fact that guy in Alibaba's from 40 Thieves forgot how to say Open Simsim. So
great ending. I will see you next time.
All right, see you next time.